Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So visit FanDuel.com to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, wrapping up the week in mailbag mode. Special edition time. It's the Locked On Texas Tech Matador Mob mailbag. Another full one to get to as news happening fast and furiously rolling through this week. So we'll touch on some of what, we were just touching on yesterday's episode. Continued changes, sort of, as far as regulation or lack thereof for college sports monetary agreements, whether revenue sharing, NIL, so many of these things continue to be asked about. A couple of those questions lining up here today we will get to in just a moment. Also want to get to a set of North Carolina dominoes. What could that mean? We'll explain in a minute. It could mean anything at this point in time. We've got UniWatch questions for the fall of 2025 and questions of the Warden. I'm excited for that answer, but we're going to kick it off with something else, Chris. We're starting here with not only Devin, but we've also got Ronnie. I've got Lance. I've got James, all asking about some of the most recent, I'm not talking last week recent, this week recent, last few hours recent, Chris, when it comes to the NIL conversation we've had this week. The gist of the question is this: with the possible reappearance of collectives, could there be a chance schools like Tech or some others could sort of reallocate maybe what their scholarship allotment could have been? And one asking, I think it was Devin that was actually asking specifically, just as an example, could this be good news for like a baseball program or someone of that type of ilk? Can you read into those tea leaves yet, Chris?
Well, I think you're committed. Texas Tech is committed to what they're doing for this first year because I think coaches have already recruited to those numbers. You've already cut players to get to those numbers. I don't think you're changing midstream on how many your scholarships each roster is going to allow, or what you're willing to take on from that standpoint, because there's plenty of coaches on Tech's campus that were like, hey man, we're gonna trim this just a bit, and players were called in and said, hey man, we don't have a spot for you here anymore, that kind of thing. So I don't think you will you will change anything in the immediate. I don't think. All options are obviously and discussions are on the table, but I mean these are plans and things that continue to change and rules that continue to kind of change and morph and all that. But I think you've been working toward certain numbers and have recruited towards certain numbers and have spent money towards certain numbers for months now. And I don't think you will necessarily, throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, okay, never mind. Let's it's a free for all again. I mean, maybe that change is coming, but I just don't think Texas Tech is a school right now that is wanting to fully fund all the scholarships that you can. They would rather have as much NIL or rev share money to be able to dole out that way. I just think that's the way that they have gone about. That's the way they think about it. Could they end up changing their mind in time? Sure. But right now, I don't think that's the way that this thing is going to go. And it's kind of confusing. I get it. I just think that, keep in mind, this is the same conversation. Baseball gives out 11.7 scholarships. They also get somewhere around $300,000 or $400,000 of NIL money. Each scholarship is theoretically worth $30,000. So you could theoretically say baseball has gotten increased scholarships. I mean, you do the math. But it's also up to Coach Tadlock to say, man, if I really want to take this money and I want to go quality over quantity, I can really allocate it that way too. So I don't know, right, wrong, or indifferent. And again, Joey, he's allowed to add GOA higher than 105 and scholarship up to 105 instead of just 85, which is what they're doing now. But I think that they've just chosen to conduct their business differently and kind of worry about quality in some ways over like quantity and like, let's have this deep, lengthy. I mean, so that's just, I think, fundamentally somebody from on high has kind of made that decision. Everybody's gone with it, and away we go.
We're getting closer than I ever thought possible to my duffel bag protocol. Student athlete shows up on campus. Here is a document indicating a scholarship for you, full ride. Here's a duffel bag, cash equivalent. Which would you like? And then we move forward. No bitching and moaning or complaining after this. You could even spend that duffel bag on an education if you'd like, or a set of wheels or a tattoo. It doesn't even matter. But my duffel bag protocol, just like my expanded playoff and on-campus postseason games, Chris, once thought to only be a pipe dream, possibly coming to fruition. I can't believe it, but we're getting close.
You ever seen the movie? I think I'm right here. I think it was called Three Kings.
I think that was a Bill Engvall, Larry the Cable Guy, Jeff Foxworthy vehicle.
No, George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, Ice Cube. They were the Three Kings.
Pretty close.
Yeah, that's right. And they're it's like a military kind of doing something off to the side operation, and they steal all this gold. And Ice Cube had worked at an airport previously, and so when they put these bags trying to steal all these gold bars, basically is what they were doing. He's like, doesn't have enough tensillary strength. And I'm like, tensillary strength. But it was all about the duffel bag. And it's how it's meshed together and how much it can hold. I would say that if a bag man was coming to see me, I would check and ask how much tensillary strength the duffel bag has on it. And that way I'll know, do I want that bag, or man, it can't really hold much, right. or do I want the scholarship? So
exactly.
Yeah, anyway.
And if it's not up to snuff this day and age, though, Chris, you could just say, "I'll take it in Bitcoin, no bag necessary." Do it right here on the phone. Crypto. And some have in the NFL, by the way, and that's been a good decision so far for those that actually did. That's a totally different subject. Thank you for that question. This question from Stetson, sort of a different but similar subject, and this is a time we're having our conversation, Chris, is sort of just hours into being processed by the public. But Stetson asking about any early thoughts for the Donald Trump executive order. The Donald Trump Saves College Sports executive order, which, as I'm reading, is apparently a real title. Donald Trump Saves College Sports executive order.
Yeah, this sounds real fancy and newsy. I think the main takeaway is that can be no. Let me make sure, Cowan, that I say it correctly. It's like, oh man, you can't. It's meant to eliminate pay for play. Third party deal. I mean, there's some language in there that I'm trying to decipher, that I don't know if it has any, much teeth in it or not. I honestly, like a lot of this stuff, I think this is probably much ado about nothing. I've seen some stuff in there that it's like got some mental health, things and some, capping things. And I've seen other people say this is just basically a real nice way of saying, we're not really paying you because you're really good at football and basketball. So I would request more time to digest and more time to find how much you can sink your teeth into this as far as real change. So that would be my request to those that ask the question on that, because it's so much out there. And then at the end of the day, like, okay, what does this mean for me, the tech fan, me, the tech podcaster? Like, what does it mean for the Big 12 conference? That's what you ultimately really want to know. And I don't know if I have a good grasp of that yet. So that's why I'm saying, because I see stuff all the time. I mean, it's like I'm sure we'll get into this, but like North Carolina and the SEC and all that, like you read the fine print, it's like, man, when the next media rights deals come around, well, that's like 4 or 5 years from now, of course the SEC was potentially going to be interested in North Carolina. Basically, maybe the SEC is just moving ahead of the Big Ten in line and starting the process early. So anyway, it's just. But what is it? My first thought is, okay, what does this mean for the Big 12? So yeah, some more time I would request on the Donald Trump executive order, please.
I'm going to guess that this is nothing, and it'll just be like
Exactly.
at its greatest extent, it will be him sort of setting a tone for these conversations, and maybe that's a part of consensus building. So there could be things come out of it, but as far as what's written or being documented or reported upon within this, I'm not spending a whole lot of time parsing over that language. I think you just answered the North Carolina question. We actually had Watt and we had Ryan as well asking about the SEC North Carolina thought or report being out there and what kind of shockwaves, if any, could be felt elsewhere, like say Lubbock, Texas. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet only $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet hits. Again, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Some realize it. I think we've even said as much throughout the course of the last 6 months or so. People always assumed when you talked about ACC, it was Clemson and Florida State and everybody else. The truth is, in the industry and to the media rights holders, North Carolina was always the apple of everybody's eye. It is geography, it is brand, it is market, it is history. I mean, it is academia. I mean, it's like they check a lot of boxes. We can all disagree or say, "Hey, man, it's like that. It's this or it's that." I just and it's funny I mentioned academics because I really don't care. And
well, they don't. Here's the thing about their academics, Chris. The example they set was how to most tactfully and deftly for decades cheat, and keep student athletes eligible, which is all we actually do care about. So I'm with them on that.
That's why some would say they're a better fit for the SEC than the Big Ten.
Sure, they want to cheat off some notes. I'm sure the rest of the SEC is like, "Now, what are you doing here or there?"
But this is much more of a North Carolina Clemson conversation than it is a North Carolina. Or excuse me, than a Clemson Florida State conversation. If you're only adding, so remember when we said when we were talking about Memphis and everything, and that it's just not wanting to dilute your league, and you wanting to keep your powder dry a little bit for potential ACC implosion. So of course you're not going to say hello to Memphis, even if it's free. You're not sure what life is going to look like in 3 to 5 years in this space, conference-wise, media rights-wise. No, you don't want Memphis. But do you want Georgia Tech or do you want Louisville? Do you want Miami? Do you want Pitt? Some yeses there, maybe some nos, maybe like, well, I'd rather, good question. Are you in a position to ask for? Has somebody called and requested that you change leagues? Do we have the same kind of structure with leagues that we have now in 3 to 5 years? Or have we changed the dynamic of it's like the AFC and the NFC? This is like, we've got 40 folks and then everybody else, and these 40 are only going to play. I mean, I don't know where road we're headed down, or do we just stay traditionally? We just kind of stay in the power league, dynamic. Some would argue that the ACC would still exist. I think that was them adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU. Was really mainly a preemptive. It's like not really like a strike, but they were trying to get ahead of the fact that There are power in numbers. And if we lose a few, we've backfilled. We have chosen to fill ahead of time. And so, yeah, we're a bit bloated now. And one of these schools, we're not even having to pay anything. They're paying us or whatever. They tried to increase their numbers. Geography wise, it doesn't make sense. I mean, SMU went to the playoff, but anyways, there's some weird. I mean, SMU is not North Carolina, and vice versa. We all understand that. But I do think that there's some Big 12 connections that you can make here. It just speaks to there's another shift coming, and I just don't know. I wasn't expecting to see this, in the last day or so with, some report that North Carolina may be talking to the SEC and, hey, it's preliminary. Hey, it's, if things shake, we'd be interested. However you want to get into all that. But this is how this stuff works. And I guess I was prepared for this stuff to be 2 years down the road before we started getting closer to that deadline. But yeah, North Carolina is like they may have the best. They probably are the one of the few schools that would potentially have an option to go to the Big Ten or the SEC if we're still operating into these power leagues. One of few. So I would think that the Big 12 will be in a position to act if things were to continue to go this way. Sorry for being long-winded, but this is a big topic, man. And this is one that we will be talking about for the next months and years to come, for sure.
I may be making this up. I thought I remembered, for whatever it's worth, North Carolina's state legislature going out of their way to try and establish some tie publicly, or maybe restate verbally a tie between North Carolina and North Carolina State. Maybe I'm confusing the states elsewhere. And of course, those are ties that can very easily be broken, but thought it was something worth noting anyway. All right, thank you for that question. Switching gears, heading back to the 806, Douglas asks this question: over Joey's first 3 years, at times I found myself questioning his timeout timing and or usage. Do you know if there's any effort to evaluate that or work toward improving game management?
Yeah, they have a variety of people like on that's, timeouts are funny because you try to save them. There are times when you're having to burn one that you didn't want to have to, and it's the quick debate. The play clock's running down, and it's like, do we burn it? Do we just eat the 5 yards? Which typically teams burn it. They don't eat the yards. Or it's like, hey, get off the field. Hey, you see somebody waving like you're motion, you're in the wrong formation, and there's all this chaos, and he'll run down and burn one, and those just happen. Defensively could be the same thing. Like, oh man, we got the wrong personnel on the field, and that's just Joey having to decide. Okay, do we chance it? Do we? But they go into it. Wanting to try to save at least one at the end of a half, and obviously, all of them if they can. And he would come to me at halftime sometimes, and it's like I won't even ask about it, but he'll voice his frustration for having to burn some timeouts early in a half, like stupid. We're not prepared, and so I mean. Ideally, you would love to be able to have them and be able to save them for when you would want to use them and to stop the clock and all these things. But and maybe there's a different specific circumstance on when you're talking about using them or not using them. But I see them get burned all the time, and it may be the offense's fault or the defense's fault or whatever, or oh man, they're about to onside kick it. We don't have the hands team on. Timeout, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, there's plenty of people that are in the machine that are coaching him up on, hey, you got this many left, or hey, do we want to milk this thing and then call timeout? Do we want to go and hurt? I mean, there's just a million things going on a Saturday afternoon that you got a bunch of people in your ear, and you have to have a clear plan for it, but not all plans are acted out perfectly, as we know.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm having a hard time. I know I could be reminded because I do remember in some of these games, after really diving into some stretches with fellow Red Raiders here or there, where you think, okay, yes, the clock said this, the down was this, the yardage was this, the score was this. What's the only correct answer? And of course, we know this after the game is ended. I don't know what they know in that moment. I remember some of that, I guess, but I don't remember like any big flaming piles of situation where he just had something really go wrong. I could be missing something. It hadn't really stood out to me in that regard as far as like a timeout usage, the game management thing. Otherwise, we've gone over and, of course, adjudicated many fourth down calls or whatever it might have been. And I'm sure we'll be back to that this fall. That's kind of what comes with a football season. But thank you for that question there. This question here from Seth asking about Baron Morton. What do you think the coaching staff offensively knows that they've got to protect Barron from? Would you say he struggles more with any coverages or looks defensively? Wasn't it a zone look against Colorado that seemed to give him some trouble, or am I misremembering? Seth is asking about Baron Morton. What do you think the profile is as far as maybe what he is more successful or more prone to be successful against versus maybe he finds more challenging? Baron Morton. What do you think the profile is as far as maybe what he is more successful or more prone to be successful against versus maybe he finds more challenging?
Yeah, I mean, the Colorado defensive line was the problem in that game because it was
were they in a zone, Chris?
Yeah, it was like 180, 180, and it's like, oh shit, and
that was man to man.
So, yeah, yeah,
big man.
It was man to man, most of it, and it was one man beating another.
Belly flop.
Jeez, yeah, that's just. And then he's just sitting down and he's getting his face mask pulled down and all that stuff. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I think you try to, like with Barron, I think he's gotten better about this, but I mean he's a gunslinger at heart. I think he's had to as he's gotten older, value the ball more and not maybe take as many chances. I think that 2 years ago, and I know people don't want to believe this, but like 2 years ago, Zach Kitley's calling plays on a Saturday night, and if you call, for example, like you call a deep shot, he has no idea if the quarterback can actually make this throw or not because he hasn't practiced all week, and we don't know. I mean, is he 65%? Is he 87%? Does he got 62 yards on that ball, or is he only good for 47? Is he going to have to like lollipop it up there? Is he going to have to zip? I mean, this is 2 years ago when we were trying to get through this.
Well, and wouldn't that just make you skittish in general as a play caller? Because I'd be assuming he cannot do this. I wouldn't want to.
And it did. Yeah, I think it did. I mean, you're kind of blind, and you haven't practiced a lot of the stuff. Anyway, that was 2 years ago. But that's I think that he needs to be protected from himself sometimes in that hey man, get rid of it, like don't scramble around and like try to make a play. And he's just a game. He's one of those guys that he's a competitor and like I can fit it in there. Like why take the chance? I think some of that is been pounded into him. That's why you saw what was it, like a 3.5 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio last year. Basically, because I really think he was cognizant of the fact he was protecting the football. I don't know what we're getting into this year on exactly how to answer that in this scheme with this particular team, because you really can throw a lot of this out from the past. One, I think he's healthy. Two, I think his group up front is better. I think there's more vertical threats on this team, and the scheme is different. I think too. Like here's another thing I would throw up to you. How exactly will Coach Leftwich handle Barron as far as audibling, checking into and out of things? And I would ask, is that allowed? Does he have the full complement? And then if you're Barron, I don't have Taj Brooks behind me anymore. Like I don't have like a guaranteed 2 to 3 yards anymore. So all of those things factor into this, and that's a good question on what does he need to be protected from and all those things, because there's a variety of different things you're looking at there that I don't know if we really have a true grasp of just yet. I don't know how he will be handled from an audible standpoint. I don't know if you will. I don't know Coach Leftowich's stuff enough to know. Does he let him go to in the huddle with 2 or 3 plays and he can check to one or the other? Does he say keep it on? Is it a check with me system? I mean, there's a lot to try to determine here. That the month of late August and obviously into September we will find out together. But the main thing is, I think, Barron protecting the ball and pounding into him, regardless of who the coordinator or the play caller is, especially maybe this year. Hey, man, throw it in the stands. It's okay if we punt. Look at all those dudes over there. You know how much money that is sitting over there ready to come on the field and try to play defense? Let's let them earn it. So let's not give the opposition a short field or try to force anything. Let's let Jack Burgess or Ian Hershey or whoever punt it and pin them and go that way. So I'm just offering that up. We'll see.
Sounds like maybe something you could offer up actually to Barron down there on the sideline just to get the game started. Pre-game reminder. If I see your arm around his neck, I'll assume that's what you're whispering. You see all that money over there?
Well, keep in mind, Barron not hurting in that category either. He's also, yeah. That's why I say
means we want him to live to fight another down.
Yes,
as well.
Throw it in the stands if you need to. But
Right.
like some of the deep ball shots, I mean, those are you're gonna have to trust your guys in some of those. Like it's just some of the trying to force it in here or there and or whatnot. So
speaking of Barron, old Greg says he heard rumors of a throwback uni for 2025. I think it was Barron that made some mention of an anniversary uniform.
100
Something
years
along
ago.
those lines.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about it? We can tell old Greg.
Okay, so yeah, I think he was asked this question. It was like, I think he said something like 100 years ago, or I can't remember exactly how he phrased it. And he was very deadpan. I would just say, as far as like uniform tweaks and changes and all that stuff, stay tuned. I can't really get into that, but just stay tuned.
Is it relative to size? They're giving you too small of a fit, or why can't you get into it, Chris? Okay, that's a question for a different episode and a dad joke. I am a father.
Not my news to break. How about that? Yeah.
All right. We'll track them down, see whose it is.
That's right.
Sounds like something could be afoot. Thank you for that, old Greg. Enjoy that Bailey's in a shoe. This question here, Derek asks, if you could afford to only get to one non-con and one conference game, home or away, which one are you choosing to go to?
Is this basketball related or is this football related?
No, this is football related.
Okay, so you're asking me to take your football season schedule this year, and if I'm like a fan and I can only go to one non-con and one conference game, is that what I hear? Did I remember right there?
That's right, one non-conference game.
And these are home games?
Derek, you have flummoxed the man.
Yeah,
one non-conference game, one conference game, anywhere on earth.
Oh, or I can just create my own schedule. Is that
next question? Thanks for the question, Derek.
I'm
Oregon
sorry.
State and Arizona State is where I'm going, Derek.
Yeah,
obviously the non-con answer is easy. There's only one that's even worth anything.
Yeah, Oregon State, and if you make me do a home game, it's BYU. If it's road game, it's Arizona State. I thought you were saying if I could pick any non-conference game,
this has got to already exist.
Where do you want to go? Okay, sorry. Yeah. Or Oregon State for sure, and then Arizona State on the road, BYU at home. Those would be the three. Salt Lake City would be in the mix there too. Manhattan will have a lot of importance, and then Morgantown could have it all on the line, and it's beautiful country out there. And they light couches on fire in Morgantown at the end of the year. But yeah, sorry, it took me a while.
Did you just name every game?
Most of the road games, yeah.
Thank you, Derek, for that question. Evan says, if you could guarantee one win regular season, which one would it be? I feel like there's some leftover salt for BYU, but it'd be nice in Salt Lake City or Tempe.
I just think. Now, granted, if you don't get others, then it limits this one. But I just think you will get the most juice out of either a win in Tempe or Manhattan, Kansas. That's what I think sitting here in late July that I think gives you the most oomph and juice and benefit nationally, record wise, hurts the other contender and really puts you in a better. I mean, it's one of those two. And if forced to pick, I'd probably say Arizona State.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm no competitive context whatsoever in my answer. I'm looking at the Utes. They're so loud. They're the loudest Mountain West team and fan base I've ever come. I mean, Pac-12 team, and well, no, that one doesn't exist anymore. They're the loudest Big 12 newcomer fan base I'd really like to have that one if I could guarantee just one. I have been into historically, Chris, really wanting to beat fan bases that care very much about it, and I know will really hurt them if they were to be beaten. The Aggies were always a great, great candidate. It hurt them so much they wouldn't even acknowledge caring. That's how deep their hurt ran. With the Utes, I feel like there's a big care factor there as well. And what a humbling it would be for little old Texas Tech to waltz right in and humble them. So I think I'd probably have to kind of cling to that one, regardless of what it might set up for the season or anything else. I think that'd just be a fun one to have in your pocket.
No doubt. I don't.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more of a petty answer, I guess, but that's what I'm going with. All right, this question here. How would you rank these position groups in the Big 12? Offensive line, wide receiver, tight end, cornerback, or safety? Do you feel like next level talent-wise, which of those groups is the conference maybe featuring the most within? Any stand out to you?
Your team or the league?
The league as a whole.
Oh. Okay, and you said tight end, you said offensive line, you said receiver, and you said secondary, and you said
that's it. He didn't mention quarterback, which I feel like would be a popular choice.
Quarterback is loaded. Receiver, not so much. Receiver, like I don't think receiver. This is not one of your year. I think there's some unknowns at receiver. We may know their names, but this isn't. Last year you had several draft picks off of your teams that went. I mean, you had Josh Kelly, who's still on the NFL roster. One from Colorado, maybe a couple from Colorado, a couple from Iowa State, and on it went. You've got a big time guy, Jordan Tyson, with Arizona State, but this is not a big time year for wideout. Tight end. I think this is a pretty good year for tight end. It's not that you have like 20 of them, but Cincinnati's got an NFL tight end. I think Iowa State has got some impressive talent there. I think we've mentioned Terrence Carter for you. I think it's a pretty good year for tight end. And again, knowing that a lot of schools maybe don't even have much or one of them, and some leagues in general, we don't really. Not a whole lot going on in there in that lab. I think this is the year that there's some talent at the tight end position for the Big 12 conference. Offensive line wise, I would say this is one of that's a strong group overall. Kansas State, Baylor, Utah, yourself. I think there's some legit talent. On the offensive line, like high end. And then secondary wise, I don't know if it's as good as it's been in years past, like with your household names or guys that have been around for a long time. I think that, but much like receiver, you could be very talented there. We just don't know their names yet. I think that's a fair component, but like, I think it's fair to like offensive line wise, but it's pretty darn impressive because Arizona State also has. There's several schools you can point to and say, because I think you're going to have one of the best defensive lines in the conference. I would say that you could be worlds better than you were last year, and you could maybe only and again, eye of the beholder here. You could only have like the 5th, 6th, 7th best offensive line in the league just because of what else is out there and what everybody else has got.
All right. Thank you for that question. This one here, let's see. Let's go to Kalen, who says, any intel on bringing back the Warden? There seems to be positive posts from former players of his on RedRaidersports.com. But to hear that answer, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. For those on the outside, this is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss a thing, and become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you for the next round coming up on Monday. Chris, appreciate your regulation time all week long, man. Enjoyed it as always, and we're on to the overtime.
It was such a pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I apologize for being flummoxed. I think I also asked for a timeout, or more time, I should say. So either way. But hey, man, we got through it. We did it together. This is the last Mailbag that we will do with no football practice going on for a long, long time. So,
nice.
Yeah, the next time we actually do one of these, we will have had an NFL game on the television have been played, in about a week from now. So the Hall of Fame game. So we're getting closer is my point. So again, no more flummoxing myself.
You're just a man.
I know, my bad.
If you're cut, do you not bleed?
Yes.
No sweat. Appreciate the time from you, Level, and of course everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.